Now it's going live. It's working. I just had to reset it. Now it works. So we're live on YouTube. So if anyone wants to share that, going live to Facebook right now, and then we'll be off and running. Okay. 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 Facebook is live, and I'll start the commercial on your mark.
Oh, look at that. That's nice. Hi.
Hello.
Everyone behind you. Support for Wrong About Everything comes from Minnesota's credit unions. Credit unions are locally based, member-owned financial cooperatives that return earnings to members through higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and reduced fees. Visit mncun.org for more information.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Wrong About Everything podcast. I am GOP strategist and Widowmaker survivor, Brian McDaniel.
I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader and grateful for that, Amy Koch.
I am Democratic strategist and the Puerto Rican heat, and my heart is fine as far as I know.
As far as you know. And
hey.
We are
Wrong About Everything.
Wrong About Everything.
Easy. Take it easy, Brian.
Wow.
Not too much.
Down there, buddy.
We're going to talk in NPR tones today.
I'm all jacked up because I got blood flowing to my heart. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Before we get into all that, I want to welcome everybody to the Minnesota Credit Union Network studio, deep within the recesses of MBC Studios in Northeast Minneapolis. We got our fantastic producer, Gabe Noah, running the board. And we want to make sure that you're noticing that, we're on YouTube. Find us on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Please subscribe. Please watch us on YouTube. There's extra content that you get visually when you do that, so we hope you do that. Please go to our podcast website, www.wrongabouteverything-podcast.com. And for all of your legal needs, go see our friends at Bradshaw and Bryant. Their entire team of attorneys and staff is dedicated to providing the legal service you need, combined with the service and personal attention you deserve. If you have questions about how they can assist you with a personal injury, wrongful death, or criminal defense matter, do not hesitate to contact them. Consultations are free. Please contact them at 800-770-7008 or at minnesotapersonalinjury.com. Now, we, of course, want to always thank the Minnesota Credit Union Network. I did a bunch of banking this week where the credit unions were fantastic to work with. We want to thank our friends at Bradshaw and Bryant. But, we got room for more
maybe a cardiac care unit.
Maybe a cardiac care unit. But,
I'm just suggesting.
Plugs, spanks, and thanks. All of these things can be sponsored by you.
That's right.
Do you have a craft brew? Hey, call us up. We'll talk sponsorship. We got all kinds of that stuff.
Brian's next heart attack could be sponsored by you.
Right.
Brought to you by the good people at Alina Healthcare Systems. But no, okay.
We need more synergy than that.
If you follow me on, we did not have a show last week. There were lots of different reasons. One of them was
the reason,
a big reason. Amy was out of town. Javier had work stuff. I had a heart attack. Everyone has their thing, and but I won't get into all the details. Follow me on social media. You'll see or. There's an article about me in the Star Tribune today, which you can read all about. But
hey, Amy. Brian's heart attack is going to be the new Amy's car bump.
Believe me, I brought it up because when I get hit by a car, he said to me, "Don't take this the wrong way, but people are way more concerned about this than they should be."
And I stand by that. I'm glad you were okay, but it wasn't as big of a deal as people say.
Okay.
My heart attack was called the Widowmaker.
And you're still here.
You were hit by a Dodge Caravan. That's very different. But no. Sunday night, I started having a few symptoms. They continued on Monday.
What were the symptoms? It's very important.
Okay.
Let's do some education here.
So So what had happened was I was walking the dog on Sunday night. As soon as I walked out of my house, I didn't even get off of the driveway until I had some shortness of breath. I had some fatigue. I did have pain in my heart. So it wasn't that much of a mystery, except that there was nothing that led up to it. The second I got outside, it happened. So at first I thought, well, is it something environmental? Am I having an allergic reaction to grass or something? So we abbreviated the walk, went home. I took some, meds for acid reflux, drank a glass of milk and felt better. Next morning, I got up, went to work, went on a tour with a legislator, no problems. Went to my office, no problems. I had to leave in the afternoon to go to the DMV. And as I was walking...
Had a phone call with me, apparently.
Oh, I did, yeah.
I wonder if this precipitated things.
Yeah, it probably didn't help. But then I went to the DMV. As I was walking to my car, I started having symptoms again, and I'm dumb, but not that dumb. So at that point, I knew something was happening, something was going on. But once again, it kind of went away. So I was going to try to see a doctor the next day, but I went to the DMV without any trouble. I went to dinner with Jenny, and when we got home, Jenny asked me to mow one small part of our yard because there's frogs there, and she's afraid of frogs, because they're unpredictable. And I could only go a few feet at a time before I'd have to stop. And then she came out to check on me, and I was standing there just clutching my chest. And she goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "You need to take me somewhere." So, I represent the American Heart Association. When the cardiologist told me that I had the Widowmaker heart attack, that's not just what some people. That's a specific kind of heart attack. It has a 12% chance of survival if you have this heart attack outside of the hospital. So. My work with the Heart Association, I'm sure, saved my life because I was able to kind of figure out what I needed to do earlier. Even though it was one of the most serious kinds of heart attacks, they did say I got there very early in the process. So I was surprised when it was, ultimately as serious as they said it was. Amy is very mad at me because I told everybody not to tell Amy because she was in France and I didn't want to ruin her trip.
I wasn't mad. I'm mad at you for almost dying. And if you had died, I'd have had them put the paddles on you to revive you just so I could murder you.
Yeah, well, seems fair. But anyway,
clear.
Everybody, you can see in how I look, you can hear in my voice, I feel amazing. I feel great. I probably even feel better than I did before because now my heart and my brain and everything's getting the blood supply that it needs. Jill Burkham and the Star Tribune did an article on what happened to kind of help raise awareness. I'm very thankful for that. So please read the article. And this is, even though it's called the Widowmaker, it affects women as well. And just you're being a tough guy doesn't get you any points with anybody. And going to see a doctor whenever you start feeling something is not for yourself. It's for your family and your friends, and you owe it to them to take good care of yourself. I did not, you guys have known me a long time. I'm fat, but I'm not that fat. I'm old, but I'm not that old, and it happened to me. And so it can happen to any of you. So I'm just very thankful to have survived it. I'm very humble at all the people that have reached out to me, talking about loved ones who did pass away from this, and including my brother-in-law's brother. So it's just something that I'm always a little bit of a smartass about stuff, but I do take it very seriously. I'm very happy that I got great care from the people at United Hospital in St. Paul, and shouldn't be a problem as long as I do what I'm supposed to do. So.
Well, Brian, we're going to be on you for you to do what you're supposed to do. Is that a milkshake?
No,
are you drinking a milkshake?
It's a D-Coke.
No,
it's a D-Coke.
It's a Diet Coke. I can't really drink. Can't have that much dairy. That'd be a different problem.
And caffeine?
It's okay in moderation.
Okay, that's a very big
here's
glass.
the thing. Here's the thing.
We are going to be watching it. It's going to be annoying.
It happened. So it happened on happened on Monday. They did the procedure on Tuesday. You won't be able to even see it, but they went in through my wrist, and it looks like a pimple. They did the procedure on Tuesday. They discharged me on Wednesday. I was at work on Thursday. I went to see Metallica on Friday night and Sunday night. I was in Chicago Tuesday night, went to a Cubs game, and they cleared me. I was even today supposed to be on a plane to Florida with my college friends. Now, I made the decision that would be a bad idea.
Terrible idea.
But like in theory, they cleared me for all of that stuff, and it's a medical miracle. But anyway,
so
amazing.
So Brian, Amy and I have been talking about this, and so like, I propose that the two of us buy you an Apple Watch.
Would you wear one?
Now, we know you don't wear a watch, and Jenny was skeptical because we asked her, but I think you need to wear it for two reasons. One, like I personally know someone who went into AFib and realized it because of their Apple Watch. Two, people who've had your kind of heart attack are much more likely to go into AFib. And so, this little computer on our watches, which is very invasive in all kinds of ways, but it's just an important little tool. And I think you should, whatever you're about to object, you should just not say and just.
All I would say is that my only hesitation is just that I don't wear watches. And
whatever.
Look at how small it is.
I could maybe.
No one
is
born wearing watches.
Plus, then we can sync up our exercise rings.
Well,
super fun.
Actually,
we're synced up, and we can do challenges like.
Okay,
so
Amy,
Amy's
you're not selling it.
She's not selling it.
No, that is fun though. And you can win a badge if you get the most.
Let me sell it.
Okay,
Brian, you will be as annoyed as I am with Amy every day when you get a notification saying Amy just completed a workout. Like, Amy just went on a walk. Amy just played tennis. I'm sure there's a way to turn it off. I can't figure it out. But,
I don't know. It got turned on.
You might have had me and then lost me. But
No.
I'm saying we'll have ample opportunities to make fun of our friends.
Oh, there's always that.
And the next time she gets hit by a car at Carbucks, we'll get a notification.
Amy. Amy's lying on the pavement.
She is underneath
nobody cares anymore.
Dodge Omni. Anyway, thank you for everyone who reached out. I'm very humbled and thankful for it. But hey, Javier, how's the DNC going?
Woo.
Well, it's a lot of fun.
Y'all could just settle down a little bit.
So much energy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the other thing. It was like last week. I was like, oh yeah, Brian's like seeking attention. Things are going too well for Democrats.
Yeah.
His poor little heart gave out.
Couldn't take it.
It's a fair criticism.
We're recording on Thursday. Tonight's the final night of the convention. I was on the convention and in the convention hall last night, the night that our governor Tim Walz accepted the nomination for vice president. It was
pretty wild, pretty historic.
I'll tell you, there was so much Minnesotanness in that room.
Mm-hmm.
And the Minnesota delegation. I was standing adjacent to the delegation because I'm not a delegate this time. I've been a delegate to past conventions, but this time I was there as a guest. And of course we were insufferable. And imagine our surprise when among the Minnesota touches. So there was John Legend and Sheila E. covered Prince's
I saw
Let's
that.
Go Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Coach Walz and all the like and these funny pictures of him's head, like that.
People are holding the heads of him. And
I was like, I love Tim, but that's a lot. It's like that's a big head. And then we noticed that the sign language interpreter, the ASL interpreter, was Nick. Remember Nick?
Of course,
from
famous of COVID,
from the pandemic, from COVID, like the amazing, like really energetic, like ASL interpreter. So So apparently, Walls brought his own ASL interpreter. So it was a little Minnesota
Yep.
Easter egg in there because I was looking up and I was like, that interpreter looks a lot like Nick.
I was at Union for a drag brunch, and I ran into Nick. That's why I was like, "Hey, you're famous. You're the interpreter."
You were where?
My watch
drag
just says
Union
Amy
Depot.
was just at a drag brunch.
It doesn't track you like that.
Sure it does.
Yeah,
We could probably
no, so
find out a
Amy-
way to track you, but we don't want.
Amy is killing another Republican talking point.
Okay.
Well, I'm pretty-
It wasn't a story hour.
Well,
it was a drag brunch.
Comedian Sarah McPeck said that I'm probably the only Republican that has ever told comedy on the stage at Lush. So we all break barriers our own way.
So I have
Yeah, that's just like throwing the first stone at the first brick at Stonewall.
I'm not saying that I'm Jackie Robinson. I never said that. My watch said it.
Yeah, no, clearly.
It will say
when your
it.
when your analogy for like a gay hero is a sports analogy, you clearly are not an ally.
Sports ball.
Brian's watch will be like Brian being an ally again.
an ally.
We'll be like, this is really getting tiresome.
Yeah.
I know. He's like, wow, that
another
must be
ally.
exhausting.
He's just
Hey, buddy,
so
watch your heart.
exhausting.
That's
A
exhausting.
notice every day about his allyship.
Stay tuned for the allyship.
So here's one thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just sensitive to it as a native Minnesotan, but I'm a little bit annoyed with both parties because of course, they're heavily like East Coast, right? Like East Coast, West Coast, obviously, sort of rule the parties. And so what I've noticed is like Republican East and West Coast politicos, they didn't see Tim Walz coming. I spoke to folks the day before with multiple Republicans as well as reporters on the East Coast, and they were just like, yeah, no, it's going to be Shapiro. It's Shapiro. It's Shapiro. I was like, it's not going to be Shapiro. It's going to be Walz. It's going to be Walz. But they dismissed. Second of all, Republicans just were not ready for it, and they don't seem to understand how to handle it, which I think is fascinating. They don't know how to respond to it. It's not the same. They gear up for this sort of game plan that they have that is in their space, and they don't know what to do with Tim Walz. So that's the first thing. So I'll say
It's like they called what's his name, Jensen.
yes.
And they're like, hey, tell us all the attacks that you used that didn't work. Let's try them again.
Well, and they're and just like how they're doing it and the tone they're doing it with, and it's just like it's totally bouncing back. But also from the Democrat East Coast, West Coast crowd, it's sort of this like, oh, look how adorable those Midwesterners are. It's a little bit like, just calm down, right? Like they're really memeing and he's just like I don't know. It's just it's a little bit heavy-handed in like we're a little bit like zoo animals out here in the Midwest, and look how adorable they are and how quaint and charming they are. So I will just say that both of you can suck it, because like he's like I don't know. It's just it feels like, oh, look at this, something so surprising and good came out of the Midwest. Yeah, that's how we are. Like I don't know. Anyway, so other than that, it is exciting to watch. You can't be a Minnesotan on either side, and I'm sure there will be things in the future that I will disagree with Governor Walz running for VP. But it's fun to watch and to see, and the excitement. It's also very bizarre to have his face everywhere, right? To have all these articles. Like, isn't that weird? Like, there it is again.
What I was about to say is, and I think I remember feeling this way about Tim Pawlenty when he was, being considered for VP, and eventually when he did run for president himself. I always talk about there was my friend Tim Pawlenty, and then there was the guy that was running for president, and it was just weird to kind of see how other people talked about somebody who I knew extraordinarily well as a person. And I certainly, we all know Tim Walz, and we all have our personal relationships and connections with him. But it's just very weird to kind of see the and I don't even mean this in maybe as crappy a way as it sounds, but kind of the deification of somebody who you know as a real person. It's just kind of weird to kind of see how the national people are.
That, I guess that's maybe kind of what I'm saying, like, right? Like, it's how they're viewing. I will say, even internationally, I was in France. We were at this adorable winery. It was a fifth generation with, like, I think they were probably in their 70s, the owners. And we were just sitting around their wine press room, and it was great because they would just, like, take a pipette and, like, pull out of the barrels of wine and put into our glass. It was really fun. And they did not speak English at all. So we were with a tour, our tour guide, and he was, like, half interpreting. His English was pretty good. We brought up Minnesota. And to that point, I will say, anybody that asked us where we were from, we'd say United States and then Minnesota, no response. But in this little town, in this little wine press room, the wife goes, "Oh, you're Tim Walz." And I was like, "Oh, yeah. That I understand." Yes. Yeah. May we?
No, yeah, and it's interesting the parts of like when you like you were saying, Brian, someone when you know someone like I mean it's like take us back to 2018. So to a lot of Democrats here when I talk about it was like that he was not the choice of the party. He did not win the DFL endorsement, and he was not the progressive choice. And people are like what? Really? And I'm like, no, yeah, because like. When like politics in a state at one level are a different thing. And so then the things that are amplified here, right? It's the small town roots. It's like the Midwestern plain spoken sort of thing. It's all the like the stuff that we know, but we know it. And it just feels like it's the air we breathe. So so Tim Walz wears flannel,
right. And instead they're like, "Oh my goodness, he's so cute with his flannel." That's kind of annoying to me. Like, he goes walking at Minnehaha Falls with his dog. Yeah, because that's one of the main dog parks of the metro. Like, it's just I get it, but also. Shut up.
Well, so to me, the experience, I remember in 2018, I was at my niece's wedding in New Jersey during the convention when he lost the DFL endorsement. And I flew back and drove down to Rochester, and there was a secret meeting of Walz people, to sort of plan out the future and the coming months. And it was rough. Because this DFL endorsement, a lot of people get in line and what have you. We had a lot of labor support, but there were not like Karen, former co-host of Wrong About Everything, Karen Moratz and I. We've joked for years that like we were the two notable progressives who were supporting Walz. Mm-hmm. Everyone else was with Aaron Murphy, and. I guess like what is really cool is to know that you were a part. Like I know very specific things that I did to help Tim Walz become governor. I remember prepping him for like screening for the endorsement with his own labor union with Education Minnesota, and just spent a lot of time with him on the campaign and got to know him and Gwen and obviously through my friendship and relationship with Peggy. And so just like it seemed like we do all these things in politics, right? That don't seem like a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. Like you help a friend out, whatever you door knock, whatever. But then when you like think about the things, the small, even the tiniest role that you might have played, that could be part of the story of someone becoming vice president, it's pretty wild.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild, and so to see that like on stage, I was just really proud. And it is really nice, I'll say, at this convention to when you say you're from Minnesota, eyes brighten up.
Yeah, of course.
Like, oh my God,
I'm sure.
Really? It's like, and people are like, is he really like? What's he really like? What's it like? And the truth is like the cornball dad joke guy. That really is who he is. That. So he's not like it's not a front.
No, that is how he is. And also I think there's something to the surprise of it. And I don't say that like, oh no, but we really didn't see this coming, right? So if Amy Klobuchar was the VP pick for someone, or has run for president, mounted, a presidential race. She's been in the national spotlight for, I don't know, 4, 6, 8 10 years now, sort of on that presidential track. And then, so this is just sort of like out of left field. And Tim just kind of goes, oh, let me sneak past you there. And like he's all of a sudden he's on the, let me scooch past you. And he's on the national stage. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like he was unexpected, but then but at this point it feels very inspired because of the like just really the contrast. And like, and I will say this about Tim Walz, he has understood the assignment. Like he has understood the assignment that as the first male vice president to a woman president, that like his job is to be there as support, like to provide support for the campaign and to like and to not take the spotlight, just shine it, redirect it toward the candidate.
And that's also true. I think back to the endorsement that you talked about where he decided to run in the primary. He did decide to run against, a female, a woman candidate, which was Erin Murphy, for in the primary for the DFL, to be on the DFL ticket. But he definitely has been sort of getting and it's also interesting, and I'm going to say, like, I'm going to talk about this also because it's a couple things interesting. The vice presidential candidates in both these races have had a lot more attention than in the past. I think about like when Donald Trump announced Mike Pence or Hillary, and I even had to think about this today. Hillary announced Tim Kaine. Remember? I literally forgot.
No, literally
who ran with Hillary. I forgot. Yeah. And so both J.D. Vance and Tim Walz have gotten so much press and so much attention. I'm curious what you guys might attribute that to. I'm curious, like why?
I think it's because there's only so much you can say about Trump because they've been talking about him nonstop since 2016.
Okay,
and
Trump.
I think Kamala to a lesser degree because really, she hasn't been front and center on a lot of stuff in the Biden administration. But there's, we're just going to be complicit with her not actually having to say what her positions are on things, and that's fine. But I think that what's shiny and interesting right now is Vance, is Walz, because it's unplowed ground. I mean Vance, there has been some stuff on Vance, but not really with this level of depth. And with Walz, yeah, as I think Javier said, we have breathed Tim Walz for years and years and years and years. So a lot of this stuff, as Javier said, that is being brought up now about Tim Walz, we've heard it already, in one way, shape, or form. But I think that's what's interesting to the press right now. But now we're going to get past this. We're going to get past the convention, and it's going to be interesting to see what is the pivot as
right. Well, we have to be off the vice presidents.
Yeah.
Like eventually, it has to be focused back on the candidates.
Well, I mean, I think the attention on the vice presidents has been like, I think it's each for different reasons. I think one like on the Democratic side, I think like the compressed nature of the campaign, and then this very public auditioning process, which was just different than ever before.
Yep.
Like and not just the very public auditioning process, but that process, like, which was not a formal process, but it was like essentially, all the potential like folks were on TV, whereas like and so but the guy who ended up getting
the rose. Yeah,
was the guy who did best in that process, in that very public thing, as a spokesperson for the campaign, as a surrogate, and he was not the common wisdom candidate.
No.
He was not.
Yes.
That everyone thought for sure. We don't even have to think about it. It's going to be Josh Shapiro.
Yep.
And so, so I think it was, for a lot of people, out of the box. I think like what was very this is exactly what I thought. Like, this is the balance that I thought he'd bring to the ticket from so many, and it's just worked out really, really beautifully. And now it looks like, this was just really well planned out. But I think it's worked. So I think that public process is one thing. I think with J.D. Vance, it's like that's where you have a real like the lack of vetting, and the fact that like he was appointed, he was named because Don Jr. and Elon and other tech guys really wanted him. And so then they're like, I mean, because there are all these juicy tidbits and like past things that he said, he keeps getting in the news. and so like I think it's a different animal like with him, and like he brings renewed relevance to Project 2025 because he wrote the preface to the book for that is now on hold for like the Heritage Foundation guy who's one of the Project 2025 people. So it's for different, but yeah, no, I think these things change now, and obviously like the debate will change that too. As we hear from the presidential candidates more.
One of the things that I thought was interesting is when Barack Obama, who reminded us of what a great orator he is when he wants to, but Barack Obama talking about when people say cringy things, it doesn't make them bad people and that you shouldn't criticize them. But literally, Tim Walz would not be vice president but for him calling Vance and Trump weird. Mm-hmm. So I took that as like, oh, okay, we're gonna have our cake and eat it too, because we're gonna progress by calling them weird and then say, oh, well, you shouldn't criticize people that have different views. But I mean, I guess if you're looking for consistency, don't look at politics.
Right. The other thing with Vance is I feel like the campaign has not allowed him. Like, he has a role that doesn't seem to suit him. And they're not, his role is so rooted in attack dog. I look, what are people loving about Tim Walz, right? Or what are people like kind of raving about? They like his folksy attitude. He's Midwestern. He's a veteran. His family. He's a coach, right? So like a lot of that personality is coming through. When I think about JD Vance, he's got this lovely family. He's a young guy. He's got really humble beginnings. His story growing up is really one of sort of hard scrabble guy, like fights his way to the top. And we're getting none of that story because his role has been, and I blame the campaign for this, to be like always the bad guy, always the attack guy, or to be kind of this bro thing, which is not appealing. No, he had that ridiculous tweet they tweeted. I don't know if they thought it was cool, but he was walking from the airplane with some of his staff, and then they tweeted about like an Entourage reference, and I was just like, yeah, those are D-bags. Those are not heroes. Nobody likes them. The whole point of the show is that those are D-bags that people want to dislike. And you're acting like this is cool. Well, I feel like they've really underused and misused him for all the attention he's getting. And thus, all the attention he's getting is completely negative.
I'll get emails from people yelling at me about this, but I think the problem is that the most interesting things about JD Vance are 2016 JD Vance, and I think that the Never Trump JD Vance, the one who had the interesting backstory and was willing to go out and criticize or at least point out things that Trump was doing or saying that he didn't agree with, but then because MAGA is in control of the party, he had to kiss the ring if he wanted to run for Senate. And once he did that, I really think it negated a lot of the most marketable parts of his background, because you can say, oh, he came from humble beginnings, he has mixed race children, and his wife, but he's just Trump's guy. And that's how he's going to be perceived. And Trump does not want him to be perceived as anything other than
adherent guy. And his guy. And that's it. And it's a total like waste of that resource.
Right. So. And I will say, I think one of the things, just going back a little bit to the weird thing, right, is that I think like one of the things that like where Democrats have caught their stride at this convention, we're really seeing it, is like if you notice Michelle Obama's speech, like 8 years ago, Michelle Obama at the DNC, I was in the room when she said, like, when they go low, we go high. And I feel like this year her speech was like, I feel like some of you misinterpreted me. And so let me put a finer point on what I mean by that. And it's because we don't like, and drawing distinctions, and because like the thing that has struck a chord with Walz in particular, like how he talks about about JD and Trump being weird, is what they are focused on. right? That like, and that's why it goes so well. Like with the like, if we don't, we respect each other, our neighbors' choices, and if they're not the choices we would make, we have a golden rule: mind your own damn business. Like the Minnesota delegation was like chanting that with Walz last night in his speech, and I think like it's hit on a particular way to focus people's attention on like what do we want government to be doing, and what are the things we want to talk about? Because when you say like, do we want to like, you may not agree with like universal school lunches, but when Tim Walz says like, we're trying to feed kids, they're trying to ban books in schools, like that in the average voter's mind feels like, well, one, you may have quibbles with the policy, but one's a policy that's relevant, and the other just feels like extraneous and distracting to people.
We should set up a hotline where people can tattle on their neighbors if they say something that's out of line, because that's how you stay out of people's business, Tim Walz. Anyway,
it's like, yeah, and if that ever existed, that would be
totally existed. And Michelle Obama, who said that her parents looked funny at anyone who took more than they needed, and then she's wearing $4,000 worth of clothes. It's fine. It's fine. Right, you guys love your people.
Because we're not supposed to be successful.
No,
we can't be successful.
No,
you're
supposed to wear burlap sacks as long as there's somebody who's hungry somewhere.
Right, see, and that's.
You're weird. You're weird for wearing all those clothes.
Yeah, no.
Let's go to plugs.
And this is why you're losing.
Well, there's lots of reasons. I don't know this is the
right.
reason.
Please,
this is pretty far down the
And
list.
also, by the way, the polls don't show. I'm just going to point this out. I get that you guys are riding a high, and I'm giving it to you, but the polls are not. She has moved the polls, but not substantively. A lot of the battleground states still.
That's not true.
That is true. She's up about 3 points nationally, about 2.5 to 3 points nationally on average.
Right.
That's great. That's a move, but is it enough for the next 2 months? That's all I'm saying. Yeah. And also the battleground states, they're still like Pennsylvania, dead even. She's moved the needle a little bit on some states to at least put them in play, but she certainly has not taken over any states or locked up any states that were battleground before. There's no locking up here. This is still a.
No one has said they're locked.
I've heard a lot of people saying, it's done. She's going to win. I'm like, pump the brakes there. Even the super PAC, even the Kamala Harris super PAC guy came out and said, this is way tighter than even the public. He goes, our internal polls are showing it even tighter than the somewhat optimistic public polls.
I'm over it all.
Of course, of course, like we are like I heard someone talking about like the polarized electorate recently on a podcast. It was Ezra Klein podcast, and they made an interesting distinction. She said the person who was on said it's not so much polarized as calcified. That things are very like every race starts with a locked in number of people who are going to vote Republican no matter what, and not a number of people are going to vote Democrat no matter what, and then a handful of states, because like the Electoral College was designed to protect the interests of Southern white gentlemen, and they continue, and it's worked like that for throughout time. Right. It's not unlikely, and this is the message to Democrats is why people are saying we got to get to work, because we could end up with yet another election like this would be where the Democrats win the popular vote, and Republicans continue to rule by minority rule. Because like it's been decades since y'all have won the popular vote in the national election.
God bless America.
Yep.
Anyway,
So,
let's go to plugs.
Okay.
Sure.
Got anything, Javier?
I did an
See
interview
me
with
tonight at
Spanish TV. Yeah. In Spain, but like, this is funny. I saw that this reporter, like, she was interviewing Dan Walgamot, state rep, and she was saying, like, she's like, well, our viewers and listeners are mostly in Spain and Latin America, so it's like, and so when they were done with the interview, I was like, do you want to speak to someone who speaks Spanish? She's like, oh my God, yes. Like,
does Dan not speak Spanish?
What's that?
Does Dan not speak Spanish?
No.
I don't know.
No, I do not know anyone in the delegation who could speak Spanish, which was frankly a problem. But no. Yeah. So other than that, I don't think I have anything coming up. You should watch the video of last week's almanac.
Yes.
Amy and I were both on the political panel. my friend Wintana Melakine was the other Democrat,
Fritz
and
Knack.
the other Republican was Fritz Knack, and it got a little feisty in a
It
fun
did.
way.
It did.
So,
and I was like
watch
this.
that.
I was like, I'm just going to back out of this room. Sometimes I don't want to fight. Sometimes I just want to say your
No one's
say
allowed to
your
fight
piece.
with me because
All right.
it might be detrimental to my health. So.
You can see Brian or hear Brian and I on the BS podcast every Tuesday. I pretty much every week now you can catch me on Channel 4. So I did an interview this week. I'll be doing an interview next week. Pretty much on a weekly basis now on their. You can catch the full interviews, more expanded version on Odyssey, but also you can catch me throughout the broadcast or catch me on the broadcast throughout the week. Thanks to Axios, who did a story on the aw shucks nature of Tim Walz, and aw shucks, they included me. And,
Jesus Christ.
and let's see. And an interview I did with Reuters. I think that's it
All right.
for this week.
As I alluded to at the beginning of the show, Jill Burkham at the Star Tribune did an article on my heart attack, which I thought she did a really good job on, and I'm getting a lot of attaboys for helping raise awareness. We all know I love attention. I get that, but really, I do feel like if we don't use this as a way to educate others, then it's a real missed opportunity. So thank you to Jill and the Star Tribune for that, and then also I will be on At Issue with Tom Hauser this Sunday at 10 a.m. on Channel 5 KSTP. All right, who wants to go first for Spanks and Thanks?
Javier.
I'll go first. My thank is Gus Walz. I don't know if you all saw last night, just the moment that won the convention. It was just so beautiful. When Tim from the stage, looked over to Gwen and Hope and Gus and said, "You're my life." And Gus Walz stood up, and he was just such pure emotion. He was sobbing, and he was saying, "That's my dad. That's my dad." It was just so beautiful and touching, and it was so great. And again, that's real. Whatever you disagreements you may have with Tim Walz, that man has a wonderful family, and his children love him, and he loves them, and that's just so sweet. And my spank is for the right wingers who immediately after went after Gus Walz and Coulter said talk about weird. Just showing the sheer lack of humanity sometimes and the dehumanization in our politics. For those who don't know, Gus Walz is neurodivergent. He has anxiety, and it is kind of anxiety disorders that sometimes make it difficult to regulate one's emotions in public. And that's a superpower. If only we could all be so free with our emotions that when we're overwhelmed and feeling something joyful, that we express that joy, even if it's through tears, and even if others around you think it's not appropriate, because who cares? Because this is what life should be about. And so Ann Coulter and all the other jackasses who are showing what scum of the earth they are for going after Gus Walz, you all are spanked.
I love you guys. I do. I'm so glad Brian's okay, and I'm so glad you're safe there. All right. Just expressing. Let's see. I guess this will be kind of lady centric and lady and women in politics centric spank and thank. My thank. Because it's DNC, I'm going to thank Michelle Obama. And she was in her speech, she talked about, and I want to make sure I get this right. She talked about at one point that she's been at every powerful table you could think of, and quickly realized they're not that smart. And I think about, as a woman, how many feel that exact same way while in some male-dominated rooms. And I think that it's, for me, I just want to say, I don't care, Republican or Democrat. Thank you for naming that, because so often women in politics exclude themselves. They self-exclude all the time. Women constantly assume that there's someone more qualified to run for office, that there's someone better at their job than them. And frankly, even in the hiring process, men and women in politics don't tend to choose the most talented. I'm always stunned at the talented women that will be left on the sidelines when it comes to running campaigns or running policy advocacy work or whatever. And so just thank you, Michelle Obama, for naming that. And then my spank is somewhat related to women in politics. A new list came out, and I'm not going to even mention the publication because it is not worth it. And it was the top 10 or 11 sex scandals in the United States, and how these politicians are still haunted by their sex scandal. And on there were the usual suspects like President Donald Trump, President Bill Clinton, Governors Arnold Schwarzenegger, Governors Elliot Spitzer, Kamala Harris's, the vice president's husband, as well as and others. And then one that might be familiar to you all is me. And it was just, first of all, it's been 12 years since the scandal. Yes, it happened. There was nothing particularly remarkable about it. And in fact, the fact that it's still being held up onto these lists, I was the only woman listed because I think they felt like they had to have some sort of equal opportunity. I don't appreciate it.
Katie Hill, everybody.
Even still, you have because you have all these men, and then you want to I don't know, you want to highlight something that's 12 years old from a state senator. And by the way, not haunted, not worried about it, living my great life, actually very grateful for what went down because there were so many lessons learned. And so for folks that want to continue to dredge up this kind of total BS, you can take your scarlet letter and you can shove it up your ass. You're spanked.
It's like I was saying this to Amy before, that it's just the press is deciding. They think that to be objective means that you have to be have two sides to everything. And so if they're instead of just writing about the fact that most, especially on a national stage, because I'm certain that most people
the list is a who's who of dudes in politics, and you say,
and it was a national publication, and most people who would look at that are going to be like, who is Amy Koch? I mean, no offense.
No,
Amy,
none taken.
We are Minnesota sort of famous.
Yeah, I guess everybody knows Michael Broadcorp though, because didn't he endorse Walls Harris?
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Yes, he did. Okay, that was that guy. How about that?
Yeah.
I'm done with it.
All right, I'm ready to go. Gabe, we kind of lost the TV screen in here. I don't know if I need it for the video or not, but if I don't, my first thank is going to be actually to my brother-in-law, Hans Storvik, who is maybe more famous than all of us right now because he was Governor Tim Walz's neighbor. Growing up, he was his student. Tim Walz coached him and his brother, and they have a real, actual neighborhood connection. And they were the Walz people were kind enough to bring Hans down to the DNC, and Hans got to be part of the roll call and actually made it onto the Colbert Show. So I don't know.
Got that right
I was
here,
in the
Brian.
audience when that happened.
Oh, yeah.
In the Colbert audience.
Yep.
In the Colbert audience, yes.
So are we able to?
All right. Yep. Here comes.
Then we heard from Tim Walz's state of Minnesota.
My name is Hans Storvik. Tim Walz is my neighbor, coach, favorite teacher.
He was also my mechanic, my plumber, my gardener, and deep down, I kind of wish he was my dad. I love you, Dad.
So anyway, that's hilarious. Hans Storvik is a real person. He is my brother-in-law. We are each married to a beer line sister. But his relationship with Tim Walz is real. It is actually a neighbor thing. I know we're all supposed to crap on people on the other side, but when Hans's brother passed away from a heart attack very suddenly, at the funeral, I looked to my left, and two people down, sitting in the pew with everybody else like a real person, was Tim Walz crying his eyes out. So We don't have to like Tim Walz. We don't have to like some of the things he does or say or says. But Tim Walz is an actual real person, and that's something that I guess his entree into this reminds us that everywhere these people are real people. But anyway, it was very cool that they let Hans participate in that, and it's something that not everybody gets to do. And then my last I've said it a couple different times, so I won't get into it again, but thank you, Jill Burkham. Thank you, Star Tribune, for the article about the heart attack, and thank you to absolutely everybody who has reached out to me, making sure that I'm okay, and also expressing, thanks that I'm still around. So anyway, with that, I am the indestructible Brian McDaniel.
I am not so sure about that, Amy Koch.
Indestructible.
I am saying, put me in, Coach Walls. Murillo.
And we are wrong about everything.
Wrong about everything.
See y'all next week.